Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Q&A, the Northern America edition. Okay, I'm tired of selling cheap no-frills service. How can I scale up from that to something that can be sold at premium? First, find out what problem are you actually solving. So maybe you're selling a photograph, but photographs, but what your clients come to you are not photographs. They need portraits. They need to look serious, and they can't do that with their phone. What they can do with their phone is take a photograph. So figure out what exact service are you actually selling. Once you do that, realize that not only you can solve that, but you can also impart know-how on how to solve that problem. That may sound like the same thing, but it's not. You can move further from that spot by solving the next problem as well. So if the problem was getting a picture, then you can also offer making another part, some other part of their image look more mature, give them advice on maybe how to set up to look more mature, or the previous problem. You can actually help them choose which clothes to wear on a photograph so that they do look more serious, or how to do their hair or their makeup or something like that. So you're bringing additional value by attaching and learning about previous or next problems in that, let's say, decision tree. You can also move up by teaching people how to solve the problem. So teaching other people how to make professional photographs. That's popular. But you can also sell shovels. It's an expression from the Californian gold rush, right? People who actually sought gold rarely got rich. The ones that really got rich are the people who sold shovels and buckets and everything else that those prospectors needed, because they may find gold or they might not find gold, but all of them need shovels, that's for sure, right? So you can sell tools that people need to solve the problem that you're used to solving. So that those are all viable venues of capturing more value and, by extension, being able to charge for it.
Yeah, I have a question. So I do social media marketing, and it's pretty easy to do it from anywhere in the world. And that means that I have competition from anywhere in the world. So as someone who has competition in pretty much every single country, how do I know which competition I should be comparing myself to and how much to charge based on that comparison?
Okay. Competition is a very old, simplistic term, which can be misleading. So it was great when, you know, competition meant the other guy with the ice cream cart down the street. Yeah, that made sense. But in the context that you're asking, that makes no sense. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, you know. Companies who offer the same thing to the same people, those are my competitors. Sounds straightforward, yeah, but it's not. Because what is the same thing? Do BMW and Kia cars offer the same thing? Not really. Do a hotel and a hostel offer the same thing, even if they're next to each other? No. Does fancy chocolatier and craft cookie maker who uses no chocolate at all next to each other, are they in competition? Yeah. Right? one of them says sells only chocolate, the other one says sells cookies without any chocolate, but still they're after the same people and the same place. Is a kebab shop in a competition with a sushi bar next door? Probably. And the final one, most, let's say, connected to the one that you asked, is software as a service, SaaS, scheduling startup from Finland in competition with some Filipino VA services. Yes, they both do scheduling on the budget. So they're not the same at all. They're from different parts of the world. Even better example would be South Africa, because Finland and South Africa are on basically the same time zone, right? So what's the same thing? That's a horribly complicated question these days. So to try to actually answer that, look at the problem that you're solving and try to figure out who else is intentionally offering the same thing in your space, let's say. There's going to be a lot of them, but not that many, because I said intentionally, right? Who is actually targeting the same people, who is trying to communicate, who is active in the spaces where you're active, right? Because if they're not active, yeah, somebody may Google them, but they're not such a threat. The ones that you're who are actively saying pick me to the same people that you are, those are the dangerous ones. So once you know that, pay attention to their prices and their other market facing activities, like I said, social media and stuff, and just ignore the others. And about how much to charge, right? That was your second part of the question. You have to look reasonable in context with the ones that I said. And if your deviations from the norm are fine, you can charge much more than most of them or much less than most of them. But the reason has to be clear. So there has to be a discernible difference between you and them. And once you know which ones they are, you can actually emphasize that difference and capitalize on it. So I hope I answered there.
Yeah, you definitely did. Thank you.
I minimized my cost, but now face even cheaper local competition. How is that even possible? Look, some businesses, especially if they're cash only, can work as fronts for money laundering. I have seen that happen. So somebody's intentionally losing money on photocopies, so they can claim that all of that money came from, people paying cash for photocopies. But okay, less sinister than that. Some services are sold as loss leaders intentionally. It would be like a pizza place not charging anything for delivery, so making a deliberate loss on delivery in order to sell more pieces. And sometimes that service is something that you provide. So somebody can make an intentional loss at making logos, so they can attract clients who want social media management, right? So don't worry about that too much. There's always somebody who can offer to charge less, always. And even if there isn't right now, there will be one tomorrow. So that's not a sustainable market strategy. I usually joke and I say making big discounts or simply charging less is not a marketing strategy. It's a whole where your marketing strategy should have been. It's also addictive. Once you start doing that, it's addicted to your customers, and it's an addictive way of thinking, and it's a good habit to kick. I provide all of the necessary info, but clients don't pay much attention to that. But then they make their decision. Sorry, the decision. There's this decision on worthless information like my address. What can I do about that? Look, without context, it's very hard to say what's relevant and what's irrelevant information. And even then, I see people overstuffing their communication with correct information, which is also relevant. Because information can be 100% correct and completely useless. Like, let's say I'm describing a person to you, a specific one. I can say that person has 2 eyes and 2 ears and a nose. Is that correct? Yes, for that person it is, but also for most of other people. So it's correct and completely useless. And some necessary information, which is relevant, should not be said out loud or written, let's say, on your web page, because it should be implied. Let's say you go to a clean restaurant, right? Good for them. But then you figure out that all of their marketing is based on them being very clean. So and that starts to get creepy, and then the waiter comes and says, hello, welcome, our restaurant is very, very, very clean. That is completely suspicious. Something is going on here, right? Communication is hard, people. It's just what to say, what not to say depends very much on the market context, as much as on what exactly are you doing for people. So figuring out what is relevant to the client rather than relevant for somebody who would want to do stuff that you do, that's not the same thing. I think one of my college professors called it driver knowledge and mechanic knowledge. So you don't have to have intimate mechanics knowledge of cars to be able to drive them, right? Some things you know what their names are, and you know that shouldn't be making that sound probably, and that's all that you know. We have that in IT as well. We have that in many other areas. So try to discern your driver, let's say, things that people need to make a decision are driver knowledge, not mechanic knowledge. And it's important. It's an important distinction. Okay, let's do one more. My gut tells me that if I raise prices, people will simply leave. On the other hand, I'm underpaid, and I know that. How can that be squared? Okay, so I talked about this a little bit before, but it's important to be distinguishably different from your competitors. It's not enough that you know that you're different. It's not enough that your friends know that you're different. It's not even enough that you're objectively different. That difference has to be easily perceptible by clients. Because as long as it's not, and sometimes you can't really tell without asking, they're just going to see you as a commodity. And, you know, these people are all the same. The only big difference is their price. Yeah, that's not somewhere that you want to be. So as long as you are distinguishably different from your competitors, and this is true for most experts, your price should probably be inelastic. That's an economist term, which means that it doesn't react as much as you think it would. So when your price is inelastic, if you have, let's say the most simple example would be, if you have something to sell and it costs 100 and you have 100 clients, most people think that if you raise price by 20, about 20% of clients will leave. That never happens. It does in some very special markets that have nothing to do with expert services, so nothing to do with any of you probably. It's that way for, bushels of wheat and barrels of oil, not for expert services. Expert services are usually less reactive than that. So if you raise your price by 20%, maybe 6% will leave. And you're probably going to be better off with them leaving and you raising the price. So without knowing what you do, if you're in this space, if you're watching this, you're probably an expert. And if you're an expert, clients can distinguish you from your competitors, your price is going to function in a way that less people go away than you think. Let's say it like that. This is my experience from a number of cases, and sometimes it's necessary to jump because you with your price, because you're not going to be able to make it if you don't raise your price. I have people raise the price like 15-20% and do okay, not everybody left. I'm good. Don't try this at home, but if you really have to, it's probably going to be okay. So thank you all very much.
Everything changes.